One UI 8.5 is going to transform the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Let's go. Today I'm going to show you some things about One UI 8.5 and show you how they're better than what they are currently on One UI 8. One UI 8, a bit of a complaint from a lot of people is it didn't really change much when it came out. A lot of that was down to the fact that they did this massive overhaul with One UI 7, and One UI 8 kind of just needed to refine things and I guess bring Samsung back in line with software updates. It did improve some performance and some stability things, but it didn't bring the visual refresh or add to the visual refresh from One UI 7. It kind of just subtly refined it. And that's fine because One UI 8.5 is the complete opposite of that. Samsung have taken what they started with One UI 7 and overhauled some things and built upon it. Let's start with the big one that a lot of people have already started talking about, and that's the quick panel and its customization. Samsung did redesign the quick panel quite extensively with One UI 7, but it was very rigid. There wasn't a lot that you could change. Whilst there was customization, you kind of just had to live with the options that you had and you can just move them around on the tiles. Samsung appears to have been listening and maybe watching others because One UI 8.5, it's complete redesign. When you have it next to One UI 8 and you hit the edit toggle, you can immediately see the differences that Samsung have gone for. Where One UI 8 was that rigidity where you could move things up or down in the list, but that was about it, One UI 8.5 completely changes that. And if you don't like it, you can actually go in and hit the reset button, which is what I did so I could show you everything you can change. Resetting it puts it back to stock, which is very much what One UI 8 was, even with some subtle differences here and there. But then when you hit that edit toggle, you immediately can get to work. You can drag things and make them smaller. You can reposition toggles and move them anywhere around on the screen that you like. And you can even change things like the brightness and the volume sliders to be vertical instead of horizontal and reposition them in around the place as well. And probably the best part is you can remove toggles. With One UI 8, you couldn't remove anything. Everything on that quick panel had to stay. One UI 8.5 is going to allow you to remove the toggles that you don't use and then re-add things that you do want to use. The problem is the adding toggles and control button does not work. It's immediately broken from the start, which is a little bit frustrating. I did manage to get it work once and you could see the list of things that you can add from there, but it's not working completely. And that is because it's a very early build of this and it's not designed to work properly yet. But the concept is there. You can add toggles back in and remove things should you not want them. I appreciate that it's still very uniquely Samsung, even if this is pretty much a lift of the iOS control center customization, because you can see it side by side, it very much looks the same. The big difference is Samsung still allow you to tweak things that Apple don't, like the brightness slider can be bigger or smaller, or go horizontal or vertical, whereas Apple have it fixed, and that's just an extra sort of Samsung touch that Apple don't really allow for. I'm a big fan of options, and Samsung seem to be giving us that with One UI 8.5 and the quick panel. I definitely like the implementation. I'm a big fan of the iOS one, so I'm glad Samsung have brought it in their own style. Something else that is going to be quite massive with One UI 8.5 is a leaning in towards content creation. Samsung brought in log video with the Galaxy S25 Ultra and One UI 7 and some devices One UI 8, and I just love that flexibility it gives you, especially post recording the video. Gives you that control. With One UI 7 and One UI 8 though, on the phone, the log video couldn't really be color corrected properly. You did have a button that could do it automatically, but you couldn't really add LUTs or control it sort of yourself. That's going to change. Samsung with One UI 8.5, when you edit a log video, are going to give you control of it. There is going to be LUTs by the looks of things, and it sort of tells you what the LUTs are. It's a lookup table that sort of helps you control the color grading of a video. It does have some pre-built ones as well, and you can slide through them, but unfortunately it doesn't work yet. So it doesn't actually apply anything to the video. And then there's the option, of course, to toggle and manually adjust the color settings yourself, which you can see that adjust in real time. And then once you've sort of settled on the thing you like, you can save that and it'll color correct it for you on device. I think that's great because when you factor in some of the changes that are coming to DeX and you factor in the fact that this is basically a PC in your pocket, you could content create on the go using this. I'm very excited to sort of test that out once it fully becomes unleashed. But then they've also snuck in some extra video stuff in too with One UI 8.5 so far that I'm also going to like. For example, Pro Video Mode is going to give us the option for 8K filming at 25 frames per second, which at the moment you've got 24 frames per second option with 4K And you've got 8K 30, obviously, with the main video mode, but now you're going to get 8K at 25. Why is 25 FPS good? Well, I think it's better if I let my good friend Samuel Nam tell you why 25 FPS is good for video.
All right, I was literally in the middle of filming a Hollywood movie for one of my videos. And then my friend from Daniel asked if I could explain why 25 frames per second, especially in 8K, is a good idea. And I wrote some notes of why it's good. Where did I write the notes? Okay, here it is. Okay, so 25 frames per second is also called PAL, okay? And the regions that PAL is, like for example, Australia, all of our lights flicker at about 50 hertz. So if you film in 25 frames per second, what happens is there is no flicker in your footage. That's why I don't shoot 30 frames, even though 30 is more than 25, okay? That's the first reason why I shoot everything in 25 or 50 frames per second, okay? That's a big one. The second reason is if you use a 180-degree shutter angle, which is double the frame rate. So if you're shooting 25, filming at 50 shutter speed, what that does is it actually creates the most natural motion blur. So our eyeballs have a motion blur, by the way, and doing 25 frames per second at 180-degree shutter gives it that look. See right now, what you're seeing right now? You like that? You like that? It's because your eyeballs used to it. So that's another thing. So it's more natural than 30 frames per second. So that's why I personally shoot in 25. Now this is crazy because I actually didn't know you can shoot 25 8K until Daniel told me you can on WhatsApp. So from now on, all my top-down shots shooting in 8K, 25 frames per second would be gold. Because what I'm doing is I'm shooting with the DJI Pocket, right? And that maxes out at 4K 50. And what I do is I shoot that 4K and then I crop in. And so it's not as sharp and whatnot. So now, from now on going forward, I might use the S25 Ultra or even any of these phones because they all can shoot log 8K 25. That's probably what I'll do from going forward. So thank you for letting us know, Daniel. And thanks for having me on the channel. And watch my video to see this short film. It's a banger short film. Trust me, it's a banger short film. If you're a fan of Samsung. That is.
Thanks, Samuel. What I also noticed too with the Pro Video Mode app is there's a new clean preview toggle, which actually removes all of the distracting toggles away from the screen and gives you just a clean preview when you hit record as well. And that same toggle is there in Pro Photo Mode too. So you can actually go in there and remove the toggles from there to get a clean preview as you're taking a photo. Samsung really seem to be leaning into the content creation side of things. And there's another toggle inside the camera settings, which again extends that out. Samsung have brought out the save videos to external storage toggle from Camera Assistant, although for the time being, you can still see it in there, and they've put it into the main camera settings, which is great because again, with all of this video resolution and toggles and log, it's going to be excellent to have that option to bypass the internal storage and just save directly to external storage. And that toggle is now going to be living in the main camera settings app. There's other things that Samsung have done too. They've made it easier to access settings. They've removed things and made it a block instead of a menu. Like they've really tried to make things easier to access instead of hiding them deep in settings. I guess adjacent to content creation, because you can kind of use this a little bit, is the screen recording function. I kind of removed the toggle out of the expanded quick panel stuff earlier on to make it easier to access for me because I do use it a lot. But when you click on screen recording, it now gives you the option to not just record the whole screen, but a portion of the screen. So it means that you don't have to record the whole screen when you record and then edit it later. You can just record the bit that you want. I like this a lot. And when you go to adjust it, you get a little like zoomed in section to really control where the corners of the video are going to be. And I did it on something like the new gallery icons, which I'll show you in a moment, where you can actually see really close up without having to edit it later, the section that you want to highlight. It's really good. And then it seems like Samsung are going to give a whole visual redesign to some of the apps within One UI. And again, it feels like they're borrowing some cues from iOS, but I also really like the idea that they're making it easier to access things. They're not really stretching things out across the whole bottom anymore. They're actually tightly condensing it and just using icons. Perfect examples is like in the phone app, you've got the keypad and the contacts all tightly grouped together and you can sort of easily switch between them. And then also in the gallery app, where again, they've sort of tightly controlled everything centrally to make it easy to sort of navigate between the different options within the gallery. And my goodness, the gallery app is just so much better than the iOS Photos app. Let me know if you want a comparison of the two, because the gallery app on Samsung is so function and feature packed. I'd love to highlight it against the impossible to use iOS one. Let me know in the comments. Some other subtle sort of refinements Samsung seem to be making is to Galaxy AI. And the one I found most intriguing was the generative edit change. When you go in here now, it's a lot simpler to navigate. For one, it sort of goes with that visual redesign of the gallery that I showed off. And then it's also just easier to use in terms of they've reduced the steps that it takes to do things. Like when you circle and highlight something now, you don't need to press an extra button to remove it. It'll just remove it. And then when you hit generate, that thing's gone. What's also really great too is that Samsung have allowed for you to keep editing. A lot of the times when I used to do generative edit on previous versions of One UI, I needed to go back and I had to save the photo and then go back and keep editing. Now there's a keep editing toggle where I can just hit keep editing and continue. And then once you do that, you can also go into the top corner and see previous versions of the photo. So if you've continued to keep editing, you can go back to a version 2 versions ago, or go back to the final one should you need to. That sort of stuff there, it's thinking about the way the user would use it and give you that sort of freedom to control your experience. And then the last one is DeX. Samsung changed DeX completely with One UI 8. And there was one feature that they brought to tablets that I was really hoping they were going to bring to the phone's version of One UI 8, but they didn't. But they are doing it seemingly with One UI 8.5. Doesn't work properly yet. It's the option where you can add and extend your desktop and add desktop 1 and desktop 2 and desktop 3 and so forth. The button's there, but it doesn't work. So I'm hoping that when this is final, that works and they keep it, because sometimes they might remove things in future builds. But at least for now, it seems like they're working on it, and hopefully it will work. Say work more. And that's One UI 8.5. There obviously will be other things that will be added as time goes on. I really like that Samsung are quickly developing visual refreshes and giving us more. And I like this new 0.0 and then 0.5 update for the new flagship, and then the full version with the foldables. Gives the foldables their time in the sun and gives these phones extra features that will make their way to other phones too. Big fan. Hopefully Samsung can continue this trend and we're all happy. Hit subscribe to Tech with Benefits for future looks at future software. This is your place for all of that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. You!